Caspar David Friedrich is the voice of a certain kind of silence, the painter who turned solitude into a landscape and landscape into an existential question. Stand before his canvases and you meet travelers on cliffs, lone monks by an endless sea, ruined abbeys at dusk, and the sharp geometry of ice where hope and ruin collide. His art is not simply scenery, it is a stage for feeling, a place where the soul measures itself against vast skies, where light becomes a moral actor and the horizon a line of possibility or doom. We will move slowly through those horizons. The wanderer atop the fog, the monk confronting the ocean, the chalk cliffs on Rügen, the frozen shipwrecks, and the intimate self-portraits that reveal the man behind the myth. Listen closely. These pictures speak in quiet, strange cadences, and they still shape how we imagine nature and the inner life. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps us keep creating more educational videos like this one. Caspar David Friedrich was born in 1774 in Greifswald on the Baltic coast, a landscape that would haunt and nourish him throughout life. Orphaned as a child, he trained at the Copenhagen Academy and later in Dresden, absorbing classical technique while nurturing a private set of obsessions: solitude, memory, and the moral weight of nature. Early sketches and self-portraits show a careful draughtsman, a man attuned to line and measurement. But he broke from the tidy world of academic landscape to make scenes where human figures are small, often seen from behind, and nature looms as a presence rather than a backdrop. Even in his studio commissions, that Baltic estrangement persisted. Cliffs, dunes, oak groves, abbeys, and sea all reappear as motifs, recomposed until they carried philosophical meanings. Friedrich's style sits at the crossroads of observation and symbolism. Formally, he favored precise drawing, muted palettes, and layered skies. Emotionally, he favored ambiguity. His figures are often Rückenfigur, figures with their backs turned to us, inviting identification and projection. Light in his paintings is never neutral. It sanctifies, reveals, or threatens. Trees, ruins, and seascapes become emblems, visual metaphors for mortality, longing, and transcendence. He worked slowly, building surfaces and atmospheres, and he often composed scenes from disparate sketches, memory, and imagination. The result is a kind of staged nature, convincing enough to feel real, arranged enough to read like a poem. No single image defines Friedrich more than Wanderer above the sea of fog. A solitary figure stands on a rocky promontory, his back to us, surveying a white, unknowable expanse. The work is an exercise in identification. We stand with him. We look into a landscape that resists full comprehension. The composition compresses scale, jagged rocks, tiny peaks, a sugared infinity of fog, while the figure remains sharply individualized. Critics have read the painting as romantic bravado, philosophical contemplation, even nationalist myth-making. But at its heart, it stages a human confrontation with the sublime. That eerily beautiful mixture of awe and terror that modernity would learn to feel in the face of nature's immensity. Notice how Friedrich arranges the foreground staff, the careful folds of the coat, the exactitude of rock, all set against a sky that dissolves meaning into atmosphere. Monk by the Sea pares the scene down to an almost abstract encounter, a nearly empty canvas of sky, a narrow band of sea, a small dark figure on the shore. The scale is inverted. The human subject is diminished so that the ocean and sky can exactly express the feeling of solitude. Where many romantic painters dramatized storms or sublime peaks, Friedrich finds the sublime in quiet voids. The composition's austerity intensifies the spiritual mood. The figure is not exultant but contemplative, a witness to the infinite. Its repetition in different versions shows Friedrich's obsession with refining mood, changes in light, the thinning of color, the relationship between shoreline and horizon, all alter the moral tenor of the image. The Abbey among oak trees returns the viewer to ruin and ritual. In compositions like this, broken Gothic architecture sleeps amid a dark grove. Twilight compresses time. Friedrich treats ruins as repositories of memory, linking the Christian past to the fragility of human institutions. The painting's oak trunks frame the abbey like a theatrical proscenium, drawing the eye toward empty windows and shadowed arches. Light slips through branches to illuminate stones and crosses, suggesting both decay and a lingering spiritual order. These images emerged as Germany was finding cultural identity, yet Friedrich's concern remains existential. What does faith and memory look like when structures collapse? And what solace can landscape provide? Das Eismeer, the Sea of Ice, is one of Friedrich's most dramatic moral paintings. Instead of a maritime panorama, we see a shattered iceberg field, a hull crushed among the splintered white forms. The diagonal shards create a jagged choreography of ruin. This isn't a documentary story about a shipwreck so much as a meditation on failed expedition, frozen hopes, and nature's indifferent force. Look for the small star of blue sky at the horizon, a tiny glimmer of hope amid devastation. The painting's physical textures are as important as its iconography. Thick impasto and precise edges turn ice into a sculpted ruin, a funerary monument to hubris. Friedrich's chalk cliffs on Rügen belong to a quieter, more luminous register. These seaside cliffs are rendered with geological clarity, strata, fissures, and sunlit surfaces arranged to produce a contemplative drama. The viewer often feels poised at the cliff edge with figures who look outward, suggesting both a literal and metaphoric looking toward memory, loss, and distant horizons. The Baltic coast was a recurring source. Its light, shorelines, and weather taught Friedrich how to make rock and sea speak with psychological precision. In different versions, the cliffs can read as nationalist landscape, romantic pilgrimage site, or personal geography. His hometown coast becomes a set of emotional coordinates. Friedrich's Nocturnes, two men contemplating the moon, man and woman contemplating the moon, place human figures in a nocturnal theater. The moon is a moral light, cool, precise, and suggestive of both intimacy and cosmic distance. These scenes stage relationships, pairs, couples, small communities, and fold them into the larger rhythms of nature. The paintings interrogate the gaze: who looks, who is looked at, and how does shared regard alter meaning? Moonlight flattens and clarifies. It turns silhouettes into icons and transforms ordinary figures into mythic types. The Stages of Life is a contemplative grouping, a shore where children, adults, and elders occupy a single scene, a visual treatise on life's phases. Ships on the horizon, figures bent or upright, and the interaction between land and sea give the painting its allegorical force. Friedrich's landscapes often function as moral diagrams where physical positions stand for life choices and spiritual states. Notice the recurring visual vocabulary: ships, trees, paths, shorelines, and how he recombines those elements to tell different existential stories. In self-portraits and drawings, we glimpse the painter's interior life: precise, introspective, sometimes ill at ease. Friedrich's later years were marked by dwindling patronage and changing taste. By mid-century, the public's appetite for grand romantic statements had shifted, and Friedrich's quiet moral landscapes fell out of fashion. Yet his reputation revived, then proved durable. Modern audiences and 20th century critics rediscovered how his works anticipated existential and environmental anxieties. His self-images, sketches, and small-scale works reveal the technical foundation beneath the symbolism, a rigorous draftsman whose imagination was always anchored in observation. Why does Friedrich still matter? He taught painting to think like a meditation. Later movements, from symbolism to modern cinema, borrowed his language. Back figures, empty horizons, the emotional geography of light. He helped make landscape a philosophical medium, not just a display of skill. And he continues to provoke questions. Were his scenes nostalgic or subversive, national or universal, intimate or cosmic? Those contradictions are his strength. His images invite us into thinking spaces where feelings and forms meet. A few curious notes. Friedrich often reused motifs across decades, reworking compositions until they fit a particular mood. He painted figures from life, but assembled landscapes like musical scores, composing different sketches into harmonies of light and shadow. Some of his most dramatic works, like The Sea of Ice, were inspired by travel reports, secondhand accounts transformed into visionary scenes. And despite current fame, many of his paintings were criticized or misunderstood during his lifetime, only to be revalued later as modern sensibilities caught up to his ethics of silence and space. Caspar David Friedrich painted the inner weather as much as the outer. His cliffs, ruins, lone figures, and frozen seas remain templates for how art can hold grief, aspiration, and wonder at once. Return to his canvases whenever you need a quiet, uncompromising companion for thought. If this journey through his work stirred something, a question, a memory, a new way of seeing, Revisit the paintings slowly. Let horizon and figure their patient work. Thank you for listening. Keep looking closely.